Good evening and welcome to Arizona Illustrated for Monday, the 5th of November, 2012. I'm Tony Paniagua. In just a few hours, tens of millions of Americans across the country who did not participate in early voting will finally be able to have their voices heard at the ballot box. This should put an end to this long and divisive election cycle, but there is still one more night ahead of the election when candidates and political parties will stay extra busy. Joining us tonight are Bruce Ash and Vince Rabago. Ash is the Arizona Republican National Committeeman, and Rabago is the Pima County Chair of the Latino Democratic Caucus. Gentlemen, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Tony.
So let's begin with you, Bruce. We're obviously going to be seeing lots of coffee and lots of pizza coming in the next couple of hours.
Yeah, not a very healthy time in terms of your dietary or your hours keeping, but lots of people working extraordinarily hard, walking neighborhoods, still making phone calls, lots of internet contact, social media galore.
So Bruce mentioned a lot of what is happening. Is there some kind of a last-minute strategy? Does anything change, Vince, over the next few hours ahead of the election?
Well, it's already been changing. You know, the last several weeks, of course, and of course this last weekend are what is called GOTV, Get Out the Vote. And so what you've seen is walking shifts, sometimes 2, usually even 3 times a day, people going out walking to neighbors and their friends and others they don't know to get the vote out. And then the calling, you have phone banks running nonstop, you know, during daylight and working hours up to about 8 o'clock. And then it keeps going because you have people that work into the evening preparing for the next day, the walk lists, getting food, water for the volunteers, that sort of thing. And it'll keep going actually well into Election Day as well.
How does it work for the volunteers who are making these phone calls? I was just talking to a friend the other day who says he was making calls one time, and it was really difficult for him to get the hang-ups, and you know, people hanging up or insulting him or something. What do you say to your people?
Well, we expect a certain number of hang-ups, and that just comes with the territory. In 2008, I worked in southwestern New Mexico and did Victory Office in that area. And we probably did 2,500, 3,000 calls a day. You're going to get a certain number of those. It comes with the territory, and you just go on and make the next call. You have to hit your quotas. Everybody, whether you're Republican or Democrat, you've got your orders that are coming from the Victory Center. They're giving you a new list of phone calls to make every day. You're chasing votes. That's what you're doing. It's not so much trying to sway opinion at this point in time. It is chasing votes, making sure that everybody who can vote does vote. And I'm sure the Democrat Party is doing the same thing.
And we hear that about a lot about that, Vince. We're taking people to the polls who can't get there themselves. Are there people? Are there a lot of people like that?
There are people like that. They're not a lot, but we do offer that if people are having trouble to get to the polls. But the biggest thing, like Bruce said, is getting people to vote. Those who haven't turned in their early ballots, calling them, knocking on their door, and those who have not asked for an early ballot, getting them to go out and vote. You know, here in Pima County, we've got 6 offices open across the county. I think it's the most the local Democratic Party ever has had open, and certainly up in the Phoenix area, there's probably another 12 more. And so there's volunteers working very hard to make sure that people use that right to vote, particularly up in Maricopa County. There's been reports of misleading voting locations being given out to Democratic voters. So if you are a Democratic voter, check your polling site, call the county recorder if you need to make sure you're going to the right place.
And what about enthusiasm, Bruce? Have you noticed a significant change from 4 years ago?
Yeah, well, if I can, for Republican voters, if they have questions on their ballot or if there's any questions at all in the election, they should call Pima County headquarters at 321-1492, just like when Columbus came to America. There is lots of, I think, added intensity in this election. We don't have a problem with volunteers. We don't have a problem with activists being involved in this election, and really not much of a problem getting voters, to the polls. We've been hearing a lot of polls from different, whether it's Gallup or Rasmussen over the past several months. The real poll comes on Tuesday, Election Day. That's what we're all waiting for.
And Vince, what about enthusiasm? We have heard nationally that this is not like it was 8 years ago when Barack Obama was running for the first time. Has it gone down significantly, at least in Pima County?
During the initial part of the campaign, it was a little less, but you've seen it ramp fully up after the conventions, after seeing the clear choice between the candidates. The Democratic volunteers that have been coming out have just been amazing across the state and across the county, of course. And where we've seen a significant rise is in Latino volunteers and activists working to get Senator Richard Carmona elected as U.S. Senator, and just getting out there, particularly Maricopa County, where you've seen some divisive politics, and you see a lot of activism there, and certainly here in Tucson and Pima County as well.
And this is something I'll ask you both. We only have about a little bit less than a minute. Do you find it strange that there are people who still say that they are undecided?
Everybody has an opinion in this election, and I just urge everybody to vote. Whoever you're going to vote for, it doesn't make a difference. Vote. There are lots of people who've risked their lives and given their lives for the ability for us to do that. Go out and vote. Tomorrow's the time to express yourself.
And Vince, if somebody says, I'm still undecided, I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow, what would you say to him or her?
I would say look at our website, pimadems.org. Look at the candidates. We encourage you to vote for our Democratic candidates. We believe they present a good choice for the future. But vote for whoever your conscience guides you, and just make sure you use that right that people have died for in this country, and that many civil rights have been in place, and use those rights.
Okay, Bruce Ash and Vince Rabago, thanks for joining us. Lots of pizza, lots of coffee, and I'm sure whatever else people want who are volunteering for this. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Tony.
Arizona has 9 congressional districts, and 3 of them cover some part of the Tucson metropolitan area. Tonight we will tell you about District 1, which encompasses a vast territory that is larger than the state of Pennsylvania. Not only is it large, but there are also a variety of demographic groups and interests. Political reporter Christopher Conover recently visited multiple communities in District 1, and he joins us now with the story. Christopher, so this is a new district, and as we mentioned in the intro, it spans a huge area. If you were to start driving north of Tucson, you'd have to go all the way to Utah to get to the end of it.
Exactly. Photojournalist Will Seeberger and I got in one of the AZPM vans and drove the district a few weeks ago. The district begins in Oro Valley, Marana, and goes all the way, as you said, up to Page, Arizona, which is the Utah-Arizona border. It actually goes fairly far west also.
And it encompasses the Navajo Nation, so obviously this is in itself a huge territory as well.
Exactly. The Navajo Nation is the largest Indian reservation, Indian nation in the country, and we spent a couple of days on it. We have some pictures. This is the advantage of taking a photojournalist with you. This first one we took at sunset. We were up north of the Grand Canyon, and this is a Native American jewelry stand on the side of the road that was just an amazing picture, so we stopped and took it. But as you said, the Navajo Nation is there. We spent a couple of days on the nation, and we met a lot of people and talked to a lot of people. We spent time with the president of the nation, and he actually took us to a place called Coal Mine Canyon, which some Navajo live at. It's actually in the Hopi Reservation, which is surrounded by the Navajo Nation. And there's this one home that he took us to that we have a picture of. And this home has earthen walls and an earthen roof, a wonderful view, but it has no electricity. In this next picture is Leo, the owner of this home, if you will, and he's standing here by his front door, inviting us in. And finally, this is the inside of his home. And this, while, yes, it is earthen, and there are plenty of regular homes, if you will, on the Navajo Nation, it helps point out some of the disparity in the district, because there is no electricity on much of the nation. And then we have places like Oro Valley and Marana with beautiful gated communities, all in the same district.
So you were also able to go to, you mentioned Page, and of course, this district also encompasses areas that are much more well-known to people here in the Tucson metropolitan area.
Exactly. We did go to Page. It was the northern part of the district. And what we found in Page was very interesting. One of the things about Page is it has a big tourism component. You have the lake there, so people go out on houseboats and things like that. But each night during the tourism season, which runs 6 to 7 months, depending on the weather, tour buses come in and fill every hotel in town. And when they do that, all the restaurants fill up, but they're gone again in the morning. It's just a way stop, if you will. Unless you're out on the lake, you don't tend to hang out in Page, but it's a fun little town nonetheless.
And we have Biosphere, Saddlebrook, other places that you stopped along the way?
Absolutely. We stopped at Biosphere. It's in the southern part of the district. We all know it. We got to see actually their new experiment out there, their big one called the Leo Project. And they were very gracious in letting us get in and see that as it's being put together. It's still in the building stages. And Saddlebrook also. Saddlebrook is all private community. They didn't invite us in to do any interviews in there, but we do have pictures, of course, of Saddlebrook. And then there are places like Globe, which are also part of the district. And we went up to Globe, and Globe is an interesting town. It's a mining town. Cowboys and miners is what they'll tell you founded Globe. And we met one man there named Earl Bacon, and his family has run a saddle shop since the 1950s, custom handmade saddles. And Earl is still running it. He's second generation, but unfortunately it's kind of a dying job, and he only makes about 3 saddles a year and some custom belts, which are absolutely beautiful, but he's a longtime Globe resident.
So how does the representative, whoever is elected, we have Ann Kirkpatrick, a Democrat, running against Republican Jonathan Payton, how do they even attempt to represent this huge area?
Lots of miles on their car. We talked to both members while we were on the road. We were on the road about 8 days doing this, and they both said the same thing, lots and lots of miles on the car. And whichever of them is elected, they will have to have multiple offices and still do lots of road miles as they attempt to represent this district. What's also interesting is we talk to people who live in the district just about that. Do you think Oro Valley and the Navajo Nation, or Oro Valley and Page can live together, if you will? And they all said yes, if whoever wins that race is willing to get out and drive and talk to the people, even though there's such great economic disparity and voting disparity. You have Flagstaff, which is strongly Democratic, as opposed to Oro Valley, which is strongly Republican.
Was there, we only have a few seconds, but was there a common theme? Like, for example, in the national race, we hear jobs and the economy, or are the interests so different that you don't get that one consensus?
Each local area had its local issue, of course, but of course the big theme was jobs. Jobs, jobs, jobs. It's the same all over the country. Okay, and then finally, if people want to see more photographs or listen to a report that you did, where do they go? Go to our website, azpm.org. Like I said, we had photojournalist Will Seeberger with us. We have slideshows that he and I put together, as well as a lot of other very beautiful photography and a radio story that we did. Great. Well, Christopher Conover, thanks for being here, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks. And indigenous populations around the world are facing many challenges, including political representation and economic stability. Tonight we'll talk about another issue, and this one deals with health. 2 University of Arizona researchers visited Australia this summer, where experts from Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the United States were able to share information about this important topic. We recently spoke to the doctoral students right here at Arizona Public Media. Christina Boehm and Stephanie Rainie, thank you very much for joining us.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.
So let's begin with you, Christina. What is it that you've been doing with the public health policy and management, working on your doctoral degree in that?
Sure. I've actually come from a lot of community promotion work and research, supporting community-based participatory research, and I'm now going into policy to support implementation of innovative and effective programs in tribal health departments.
And you've worked for different Native American nations?
I've worked primarily with actually the Pascuyaki Health Department, and then with national organizations. So I did some work with the National Indian Health Board, and then a lot of work with regional, the Intertribal Council of Arizona. So.
Okay,
yeah.
And Stephanie, you're getting your doctoral degree also at the same College of Public Health, but you're working in maternal and child health. What does that consist of as far as your research?
For my research, I'm moving my focus that has primarily been on governance in the past to looking at the social determinants of health in indigenous communities. And primarily I'm focused on trying to provide information to tribes on what they can do beyond the healthcare system to affect the health and wellness of their communities.
Mm-hmm. And so we hear a lot, Christina, and I'll ask you this, Stephanie, as well, about some of the challenges on the Native American nations throughout the country, for example, obesity, diabetes, alcoholism. What would you like to say about these issues?
Well, sure. Those issues are a great disparity within the American Indian community, but there's a lot of work being done within those communities based on a lot of the strengths and assets within the community, whether it be culture or just the strength of being a community and working together. to address those issues. So my experience has primarily been with tapping into that and creating that community and developing programs that are affect not only the individual but the family and then the greater community. So I see a lot of positive and innovation and a bright future for addressing some of these disparities.
All right, so let's talk about that, a little bit about some of the programs. Do you have an example perhaps where people got together and decided to make a change in some way?
Yeah, I worked with the urban American Indian community in Tucson through the Tucson Indian Center with a very passionate group of community members with a wide range of people, of ages, to develop a program. So we first did a lot of creative, innovative ways of collecting health assessment information. So we ran events to hear from the community what were the pressing health issues. So that's where we focused in around diabetes. But we also brought the community advisory board together to develop the curriculum. And so what was important was to bring in traditional foods and healthy eating, physical activity, and then also just activities that brought families together. And so that's the program that I was involved in Tucson.
Have you found this to be the case, Stephanie, as well? Engaging people, having them make decisions about their futures, their lives, and so on?
Definitely. My work tends to be more comparative in nature, looking at a number of different Indigenous Native communities. And what we found is that as Native communities take over creating and administering health programs, they tend to focus more on Indigenous ways of knowing and combining that with Western knowledge to create programs that are responsive to their community and also strategic in focus.
And once you do that, once you engage people, obviously you're more likely to have better solutions than if it's coming at them from a different source. Do you find that to be the case?
Definitely. When Native communities take over healthcare services, they tend to focus on solutions that are innovative, as Christina said, as well as responsive to the communities. Instead of in the federal system, the decision is often made in D.C., and so it doesn't fit what's going on the ground.
All right, let's talk about that conference that both of you just attended in Australia. So it was the International Network of Indigenous Health, Knowledge, and Development. And it's interesting because it compares the countries of Canada, United States, New Zealand, and Australia, all settled by, let's just say, the British. And so there are some similarities between those indigenous populations and the United States, right? What would you like to say about that conference?
Well, what was great was this the thread of really valuing Indigenous knowledge in and of itself and local knowledge as an asset within the work you do, whether it's in health services or health promotion or policy, really advocating at a national level. So I thought that was very a similarity that I saw.
And what did you take away from it, Stephanie?
I took away that despite some differences, meaning that in the U.S. here, tribal nations have rights to sovereignty, but they don't in the other countries, every community in these indigenous communities worldwide are taking action and making changes using their own knowledge and ideas and visions of what they want in terms of a healthy community.
Okay, and I know it's hard to talk about long-term, decades from now and so on, but Christina, what would you see what do you see happening in the near future when it comes to health issues and Native American populations? At least with the people that you're familiar with. I'm not going to ask you to speak about the whole country in general. What do you think? What are some of the things that can be done for the future?
Sure. Well, I'm seeing a lot of tribal nations taking ownership of the health system, the health, even health plans in some cases, and then also developing programs that are really grounded in their culture and traditional worldview. So I can see that as just continuing and ultimately having the positive impact of reducing some of these great disparities that we see. But also linking outside of the traditional health system into the work that's being done with nonprofits, like what you're looking at, and just community groups that are dedicated to improving the health of their people. So.
All right, and you, Stephanie? We'll let you finish.
I see tribal communities using their knowledge to create more responsive health services, but also focusing more in general on healthy communities and sharing their stories broadly across the globe and through the U.S.
Okay, great. Christina Orea de Boehm and Stephanie Rainie, thank you very much for joining us, and good luck with your research and your doctoral degrees.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Many of you suffer from stress, back pain, and other bodily aches, and a growing number of people are turning to an ancient practice for assistance. Yoga is credited with helping out the mind and the body, and scientists are studying its health benefits. Caitlin Harrington has that story.
Inhale. Exhale.
In the U.S., the popularity of yoga has increased over the past 15 to 20 years. Yoga is no longer just a trendy workout. Continued research shows that yoga may play a vital role in healing a variety of ailments, from depression and back pain to the continued healing of cancer survivors.
I was diagnosed with cancer in 1987 when I moved to the United States. And I actually started exercising much more. I go to yoga 2 classes about 4 or 5 times a week, and then I also have a home practice that I do.
The National Center for Complementary and Alternative Medicine reports yoga as one of the top 10 complementary health practices used among U.S. adults, and estimates that 6% of adults have used yoga for health purposes in the past 12 months.
They're finding interesting things that we knew kind of by theory or by inferring how yoga might work in terms of health and treatment of different problems. So there's a good evidence about back pain and how yoga could strengthen the back and improve functioning and decrease pain.
Downward dog. Everyone
At Arizona Power Yoga, owner and instructor Joseph Loricella teaches a proprietary no-bull yoga flow, a style that Joseph says brings out one's noble self.
Power yoga is a dynamic sequence of yoga postures that are united with the breath. That it's really an athletic style of yoga that is accessible to everyone. All the teachers here are really good at giving modifications for every pose. So if you couldn't do a pose that you see, you could do the pose in a watered down or a lesser version, and it would be working the same body part and area of the body.
In addition to teaching varied levels of classes, Arizona Power Yoga offers teacher training and yoga retreats to those looking to expand their yoga experience. Jane Saltzman decided to become a certified instructor after 4 years of participating in classes that changed her life in more than one way.
So about 4 years ago, I was driving along Silver Bell Road and I saw the sign that said Arizona Power Yoga, and I thought, humph. But I was a little skeptical because I had had a chronic lower back problem since my early 20s, so really for 25 plus years. But somehow I got up the nerve and I came in, and Joseph was teaching, and he gave me 2 really good words of advice. He said, don't do anything that hurts, and I've seen yoga cure lifelong problems. So I started with a daily practice, and it was essentially like a miracle. My lifelong low back problem completely disappeared, and now I'm like the back-bending queen. I can't wait for that part of the practice.
90% of all illnesses are related to stress, and I feel like everybody and everyone and anyone can benefit from yoga. Who we are, in some ways why we're here, it's the way we take care of ourselves.
A lot of people that use yoga as a stress relief, and there have been studies now looking at markers of inflammation in the body that go up with stress, and people that practice yoga on a regular basis have less of those markers.
Currently, Arizona Power Yoga is reaching out to an even broader community by being the first yoga studio in Tucson to offer Silver Sneakers, an insurance-approved senior program.
We are really, really excited. Obviously, Silver Sneakers is a fitness-based program aimed for senior adults. And similar to yoga, it's really about getting people to move their bodies and work their breath. So we are really honored to be one of the few yoga studios really in the entire Southwest that is going to be offering Silver Sneakers classes.
According to Dr. Levinson, yoga is now being looked at as a preventative to many ailments. With elementary schools beginning to offer yoga classes, it is likely that yoga studios will begin to be more diverse in the years to come.
I always say that there's a yoga for everybody, and what we have at Arizona Power Yoga is a yoga for everybody. To just take the first step and step into a yoga studio and take a class.
In tonight's video postcard, we give you a glimpse of some of the people and activities in Congressional District 1 in Arizona. As we mentioned earlier, it is larger than the state of Pennsylvania, so whoever wins in this political race will have to continue adding a lot of miles to his or her car.
Dito at egot ato peso ni ginot an hipi hindatil church denil ini edos ya teta na hat anjono ko peche jodo shina shipe na ko
You can get more news and information on our website, azpm.org. To comment on any story you saw tonight, click on it online and go to the bottom. We can also be reached via Facebook and Twitter. Coming up tomorrow night, join us for complete local and national coverage of Election Night 2012. The PBS NewsHour will have the most recent national numbers and in-depth analysis, which will be supplemented locally by our team right here at Arizona Public Media, where you'll get the latest numbers and reaction about important races and propositions. We hope you can join us. I'm Tony Paniagua from all of us at Arizona Public Media. Have a great night.